Chapter 9. The seventh prince said in his heart, "The plague was incurable, even he narrowly escaped from death's door. How could a bowl of medicine cure it? That Chen Yibin was just speaking nonsense. So the seventh prince quickly dispelled the doubts in his heart and pulled Qwfod in to comfort her. Qwfod dropped into his embrace, her face pale, teeth trembling. Before long, the Tiantian emperor dispatched his chief eunuch, who arrived with a group of imperial guards. He gloomily opened. His Highness the Crown Prince has already been completely healed. Lady Concubine, please take a walk with this sage. This sage has some questions to ask." The Tiantian emperor was old. His health was progressively declining. He was naturally looking for a longevity god medicine. The attendants that followed him also wanted everlasting riches and honor. They were naturally also anxious on this behalf. So the crown prince didn't even need to command it before someone came to capture Qwfod. Qwfod knew that her space and spiritual spring were too miraculous. She couldn't let others know about it. Otherwise, the outcome would be fatal, and the space was already bound to her soul, with a jadeite bracelet and as a medium. As long as she didn't wish it, even if she wore the bracelet on her wrist, no one could see it. This bracelet couldn't be robbed. As long as she had the spiritual spring and space, she always had a way to survive this calamity. Because of this assurance, no matter how the chief eunuch interrogated her, Qwfod was not willing to confess. The emperor had not yet sent down directions, and the group was not brave enough to carry out punishment on a prince's concubine. So the chief eunuch was helpless and had no choice but to leave angrily with the imperial guards. Soon after they left, Qwfod quickly swallowed a rejuvenation pill, then finally slumped into the corner, panting. She could hide in her space, but when she came out, she would still be stuck in the prison cell. So what was the use? Moreover, her family was still in the capital. Her younger brother also had great future prospects. If she ignored them and disappeared, the emperor would certainly take out his anger on the Xie family. So her only choice was to offer the longevity prescription to the Tiantian emperor to help nurse the Tiantian emperor's health, making the Tiantian emperor eternally grateful to her. This could still be considered a shortcut to promotion. The seventh prince would also benefit a lot. Thinking up to here, Qwfod smiled slightly. Her previous panic and helplessness were swept away. If she could think of it, how could Zhou Yunsheng not? That night, he hypnotized the imperial guards and boldly walked into the prison. "Lady Concubine, how are you feeling?" He smiled and cupped his hands, his eyes full of banter. Then he sniffed the air and sighed. "The lady always has so many remarkable medicines on her body, and this medicine is very peculiar. Based on the scent, the Shen fears that a few of these medicinal ingredients can't be found in all of Dazhou. If the lady offers this as a tribute to the emperor, and the emperor lives for 100 years, the lady will certainly experience a change in fortune." Qwfod sneered, but remained silent. She was now somewhat fearful of this champion scholar. She felt that he was not mortal. How could a mortal man break into her space and spiritual spring with just a glance? Zhou Yunsheng didn't mind. He walked up to the prison door, picked up a random straw on the ground, and inserted it into the brass lock. After a little fiddling, the big lock opened. As the villain, there really was no disadvantage to having many skills, except for giving birth. There was nothing he couldn't do. Qwfod gawked at him. After she snapped out of it, she huddled herself into the corner, shouting in panic, "What are you doing?" "Relax, I won't kill you." Zhou Yunsheng walked over, bending to look at her. If he killed the world's hero or heroine, the world would immediately collapse. Because he was a foreign force, there was devastating might. But if a resident of the world killed a hero or heroine, except for skewering the world off its original track, there wouldn't be any other effects. So he wouldn't take the initiative to deal with the hero and heroine. He was after the space and spiritual spring. As a mass of energy, the space and spiritual spring was food. Hearing this remark, Yudo became even more alert. The hands wrapped around her shoulders were rigid, wanting to shout, but finding that she was unable to make a sound. What was going on? She looked at Julian Sheng in indescribable horror. Just a bit of hypnosis. Don't panic. Julian Sheng's smile was gentle. Pointing to her slender wrist, he sighed. An imperial green jadeite bracelet. Really rare. You can see it? Seyudo could still speak at normal volume. She was now almost scared enough to lose her soul, constantly guessing this man's identity. The bracelet was an immortal's gift. If Julian Sheng could see it, wasn't he also an immortal? Julian Sheng didn't answer. He reached over and pulled the bracelet off, then rolled it around in his palm. Xiudo stared in endless horror as the bracelet turned into little fluorescent lights, all absorbed into Julian Sheng's body. Although it's nothing compared to the absorbing a whole world, mosquito meat is still meat. So thanks a lot, Lady Concubine. Julian Sheng elegantly cupped his hands, then strolled out of the cell. In the end, he didn't forget to rehang the copper lock. Putting a finger on his lips, he said in a low voice, "As long as the spiritual spring in space is taboo, let it not be mentioned before others." This was the last hypnotism. Xieyuro maintained her horrified expression, but obediently nodded. Because the bracelet was bound to her soul, forcefully taking it away would also injure her mind. Soon after Julian Shang left, Xieyuro felt a terrible headache and she rolled on the ground in pain. "Where did you go?" When Julian Shang returned to the room, the crown prince was leaning against the bed head, staring at him. "To the bathroom." "Is there not a closed stool in the house?" "The smell is unpleasant, and the sound is also indecent." The crown prince chuckled, then opened the quilt and said, "You're such a busybody. Come in already." Julian Shang hesitated for a few seconds before removing his robes and getting into the bed. This half a month, while the crown prince was critically ill, he slept in his bed every day. Refusing now was somewhat unnatural. The crown prince embraced him. His strength was strangely great. Without another word, they slept peacefully. Xieyudo was insane, not responding to any questions. The chief eunuch had no choice but to escort her back to the capital, to be personally interrogated by the Tianqian emperor. A god medicine that could almost instantly cure the plague. The Tianqian emperor naturally wanted to obtain it, personally going to the office of punishment to oversee. Xieyuro looked deranged, shouting that the crown prince would be abolished, the seventh prince would ascend the throne, she would be empress, and so on. Her ambition was abundantly clear. The Tianqian emperor was furious, inevitably thinking that if this small concubine could be so ambitious, what were the seventh prince's thoughts? Perhaps he desperately wanted him and the crown prince to die, clearing the path for him. Otherwise, how could he know that Xieshi had god medicine but refused to use it on the crown prince? In this way, the seventh prince fell into an extremely unlucky situation. The Tianqian emperor imprisoned him in his residence and snatched away all his assignments. Xiexhi's family also met with misfortune. The Tianqian emperor's imperial guards completely turned over their properties in search and imprisoned the entire family for treason and other felonies. Qwfod's conduct was not at all cautious. She indiscriminately arranged medical prescription and other objects from her space on her shelves, really allowing the Tianshan emperor to seize a bounty. But many of the medicinal ingredients could only grow in the space. Where could they be found in the mortal world? The Tianshan emperor handed over the recipes to the imperial physicians for research. After no results were found, he handed them to several wandering Taoist priests. Over time, he unexpectedly became obsessed with concocting pills of immortality and went down the path of pursuit of longevity. The crown prince frequently advised him to stop, but he was ignored, so he had no choice but to drop the subject. Slowly, he began taking over governmental affairs. When the Tianshan emperor was 56 years old, he collapsed, and the whole country mourned his passing. The crown prince sat on the supreme throne with almost universal support from the officials. After the grand crowning ceremony, the newly appointed Tianqi emperor impatiently summoned the newly appointed Grand Academician. "Am I wise or not wise today?" The emperor intimately gripped the young man's hand. "Wise." Zhou Yunsheng struggled to get free, seeing his strength getting increasingly bigger, almost crushing his hand bones. He had no choice but to give up. Imposing or not? Imposing. The corner of Zhou Yunsheng's mouth twitched. "Then are you still fond of me?" Zhou Yunsheng was silent, seeing the storm brewing in the other man's dark eyes. He'd considered for a moment, then said, "You are now the emperor. I am a court counselor. If our relationships exceeds the boundaries of monarch and minister, forget about whether or not other people notice. Only between ourselves, suspicion and jealousy will eventually arise. Contradictions are inevitable. Our time, our love might whittle away. Over time, our love might whittle away." The Tianshan emperor automatically ignored the first few sentences, asking in delight, "Love? You also have feelings for me?" "I knew it." He pulled the young man into a tight embrace, his voice low and dangerous. "Why don't you give me a chance? Maybe our feelings will not whittle away, but refresh for an eternity. If you don't agree to be with me today, then promise 100 years of prosperity for the Shen family will not count." The promised 100 years. Zhou Sheng's shoulder ached under his grip. He raised his head and glared, clenching his teeth. The emperor never goes back on his words. Haven't you heard this saying? The emperor is unpredictable. Haven't you heard this? The Tianshan emperor retorted. Don't get angry. The Tianshan emperor saw his ugly complexion and quickly coaxed in gentle tones. "As long as you obediently stay by my side and don't disappear, I won't touch the Shen family. Yunsheng, I'm begging you, please, I'm begging." Like a child, he buried his head in the young man's neck hollow and rubbed where was that imposing momentum from during the day. Zhu Yunsheng originally held some inexplicable affection towards him. Now, seeing him so fragile and panicky, he pondered for a long time, then slowly embraced his slender and powerful waist, compromising. The Tianqi emperor rejoiced in his heart, then hurriedly took hold of his lips. Qwfod was sentenced to death by the Tianshan emperor, and the seventh prince also had his title, rank stripped away. Now that the new emperor had ascended the throne, his rank couldn't be reinstated. The seventh prince's huge residence was deserted, the income not covering the expenditures. He unexpectedly had to rely on Chen Xiaodan to maintain it. "My brother has just been bestowed the title of Duke Zhongyong. Today he is hosting a banquet. Are you coming with me?" Chen Xiaodan no longer showed her former humbleness in front of the seventh prince. Her address had long changed into you and I. Naturally, I will go with my beloved imperial concubine. The seventh prince's smile was extremely gentle. Now that you have lost your rank, you can't call me beloved imperial concubine. Lest others find fault. Chen Xiaodan retorted, not lightly or heavily. She left without looking at the seventh prince's drastic change in complexion. The two arrived at the Shen residence, only to see the guests coming and going. The entrance as busy as a marketplace. The scene was very grand. The whole world knew of the Tianqi Emperor's extreme trust in official Shen. In front of the Emperor, 100 sentences from others was not equal to a single light comment from him. Naturally, everyone wanted to curry favor with him. Shen Qidan left behind the seventh prince, who was wholeheartedly trying to make friends with the courtiers, to stroll through the back garden. But he met a row of majestic imperial guards stationed at the courtyard gate. Whenever someone came near, they would look over menacingly. Shen Qidan was frightened. She stood on tiptoe, trying to get a look inside. But there she saw her younger brother and the Tianqi Emperor drinking wine by the lotus pond. She couldn't hear what her brother said, but the Tianqi Emperor raised his wine cup and laughed heartily. While laughing, he reached out and combed his hand through her brother's wind-tossed hair, his expression very gentle. The monarch and minister had already gotten along for nearly a decade, but their feelings seemed to never change. Shen Xiaodan felt reassured. She smiled faintly and turned away.